Hey everybody, I'm Butch Vig. May the rock be with you.
Mate, what an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
Cool. Welcome to May the Rock Be With You, Butch. It's going to be a pleasure to see Garbage back in Australia this December. You're coming out for the Good Things Festival, which is outstanding. It's such a diverse and varied bill. Who are you most excited to be sharing this tour with?
Oh man, there's so many great acts. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Tool. I know Maynard, I've known him for a while. I know that Maynard really likes wine, as do I, so I'm sure we're going to be having some celebratory glasses backstage. Also, good friends with Weezer, the guys in Weezer. Um, there's a band on the bill, Refused, that I
Mm,
am super psyched to see. I love their music. That their debut album was a huge influence on the band AFI, a band who I produced many years ago, and I've never seen them live, but I'm hoping that depending on what stage you're on and what time that we're at the venue, they're going to be at all three shows. But I want to catch one of the sets because I'm really psyched to see them.
awesome, man. It's going to be so much fun. Now, you're also hitting up some headline shows, including playing the Opera House, which is outstanding, by the way. As the catalog grows, how do you shape a set list in 2025, and even more so for a festival compared to a headline set?
Well, they're two different things. Festivals, we have a tendency to try and play as many of the sort of radio tracks as we have, and we're going to want to play at least a couple songs from the new album. But we realize that we can't go too deep into the catalog at festivals because a lot of fans might know who we are, but they're not going to know our deep catalog like our fans are at our own shows. So
Mm,
our own show is really Shirley is the one who sort of comes up with the set list. Before we started the tour here in the U.S., she put a post on Instagram and we did a poll asking fans,
nice.
and I mean, there were some crazy requests. There were some of our hardcore fans are picking these obscure B-sides which we've never played live. Um, but she whittled it down to about 40 songs, and so that's what we chose so far to play in the set and on the US run here. And there's some deep album tracks, but we're also playing three songs from the new album. But Shirley really lyrically wanted to pick some songs that sort of reflect the craziness of the world that we're in right now. And we're playing Queer. We haven't played that for a while. We're playing Cherry Lips.
Mm,
We're playing Bleed Like Me, which also lyrically I think is really pertinent to just what's going on. And the trick is to
wow.
keep breathing. Um, and the set list will probably change a little bit in Australia from what it is in the U.S. But it's going to be good. We're playing really great right now. Shirley is on fire on stage every night, and if Shirley has a good show, we have a good show.
Yeah, man. I've been watching some footage and it's unreal at the moment. It's so great to see you guys firing. It's going to be so much fun. Now, you missed the last tour here in 2016, so it's been a long time since you've been in Australia. I think it was 2012. Do you have a favorite memory of a previous tour down here?
Well, I was remembering when we did Big Day Out years ago. Um, I can't remember if they were on the same tour. Midnight Oil was on one of the Big Day Outs we did, and I was a huge fan of that band. We got to hang out with them. They're just fantastic people. We also one of the Big Day Out, the Prodigy were on the bill,
Wow.
and the cool thing about those festivals, it was like we would play a city, all stay at the same hotel, all the bands. So we'd party, and then we'd all go to the airport and fly on the same flight to the next city. So it was like rock and roll camp, sort of weird. And I used to sit on the plane next to Keith Flint, sadly R.I.P. from the Prodigy, and he was the coolest man. I had so much
Mm,
fun hanging with him. And so it's like I don't really remember the shows as much as I remember hanging out with all the musicians backstage. It was really, really fun, quite
that's
special.
awesome, man. Now, it's also been 30 years, and I hate this because when I talk about these numbers, it ages me as well. It's been 30 years since the release of the debut Garbage album. So, what's your fondest memory of when it was released and when it took off for the band?
Oh man, we had no idea that the record was going to sort of take off like it did. I knew that we made a good record, um, but initially we only signed on to do 6 weeks of shows. We were going to play in November and December of '95, the year the record was released. I think the record was released that fall, and then the label said the record's getting airplay all over the place. You guys have to keep adding shows. So we kept adding shows, kept adding shows. Cut to 18 months later, we went on tour for 18 months all over the world. But for me, I'm from Wisconsin, which is in the middle of the U.S. and from a small town. And we went to so many countries I'd never been to before. We went to Australia, we went to Japan, we went to
Mm.
Singapore, we went to South America and South Africa and Israel and all over Europe and Russia. And I never would have gone to those places if it hadn't been for garbage. So that's what I remember really is just the being able to meet all these cool people and all these different cultures. It was just a thrill.
Yeah, that's so cool. Now, I remember I was introduced with the debut with Val. Now, when I heard that for the first time, I was hooked. What was the feeling like when a song like that comes together for the band? Did you have that same feeling of like, we've got something here?
Yeah, it's interesting. We almost did not put that on the debut album because we got asked to add a song to this sampler in the UK called Volume, which was like a CD sampler at the time. And Va was not finished. It was more straight sounding to start like a strummy acoustic guitar. And and I was in the studio thinking we can't release this the way it is. We need to do something. And I had in my head the start of that guitar, this zh, 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 zh. I didn't really know how to do that. And spent like 2 days trying these different things till I came up with all these guitar hits that had an envelope shaving the front off of it, and then playing it on a keyboard that was playing samples.
Mm.
And we turned all the preamps up on the board so everything's saturated in the chorus. And then it came out on volume. And like I said, we weren't going to put it on the record because we figured we've already released it. And then we got a call from our label. It got picked up by K Rock, which is a big station in Los Angeles and a station up in Seattle. And the label's like, "Oh my God, this is blowing up at radio. You have to get the album out now, and you need to put Vow on the album." So that's what we did. But we had no idea at the time that that was going to be a big single for us.
Yeah, it's such a good song, and it was the first one too, so even better. It just introduced the world to you guys. Now, I did an audio engineering degree back in 1994, so I knew of you as a producer before I knew you in Garbage. So I love listening to your stuff, and I love listening to. We'll get to that shortly. But when you take the reins and you're producing your own album, are there more nerves in doing your own product rather than someone else's?
It's weird, Troy. They're two different things. Like they're two sides of my head. Producing is one side of my head, and because when I'm producing someone, I have to remember it's their music and their vision. It's my job to pull great performances out of them. In Garbage, I can be a songwriter, I can be a drummer, I also play guitar and keyboards. I can just pick out the wine we're drinking for the day and let everybody else do their thing. Um, they're quite radically different, and I really appreciate it that I've been able to split those two things now for 30 years because it obviously, for me, it's just been a great creative outlet to be able to go between both,
Mm.
because when I get burned out in Garbage and I can go produce another band, and when I'm burned out of being in the studio, I can jump back into Garbage and do our thing. And it's just been the coolest thing to be able to split time between two things like that.
That's awesome. So let's talk about new music because last tour this year you released the Let All That We Imagine Be the Light. When you look back 30 years, what, if anything, technology wise, allowed you to do that you couldn't have done on that debut record?
Well, we made that first record using samplers, and the first Garbage record has a very unique sound. And a lot of that is because we record things to tape, and then I would find a segment and load that into a hardware sampler, like in a Kai S1000 or a Kurzweil K2500. I'd find a 2-bar, 4-bar loop, process it, filter it, whatever, and then I'd fly it back onto analog tape. So a lot of the songs had these loops. And that's kind of how we mixed a lot of the songs in the first Garbage record, just by adding and subtracting in the mix. And then we made version 2.0 and we moved on to Pro Tools. And of course, I was ecstatic because you can just record
Yep.
unlimited tracks. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we had a tendency to go too far. Like, I think on Push It, we recorded over like 230 tracks. It was just kind of a nightmare to mix. Um, but I've realized, and this kind of goes back to working with the Foo Fighters on Wasting Light, that performances are really the key to recording. We made a Wasting Light in Dave's garage on a tape machine, so you
Mm.
can't cut and splice things with a computer and drag a chorus to another part of the song. You can't auto tune vocals. It was all about performance, and I really took that to heart. And so when we've been recording the recent Garbage records, they're much quicker in some ways, and I think the production is a little spare in some ways than like Beautiful Garbage or some of the records we did in the 2000s. Um, And I take that to heart. It's like at the end of the day, um, people are really responding to the overall sound, a lot of times to the vocal and just the feel of the track. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't need to have 200 tracks to do that. In fact, less is probably good. You know, less is more.
Yeah, I've got my copy of Wasting Light here, and it came with a little piece of tape. So I've got a part of the recording process that it came with. So I've got that here. So I was
Oh
like,
yeah, that's the, so when we finished the record, Troy, you know, Dave wouldn't let us. It was all done on tape. There was no computers, no. We recorded on tape, mixed the tape, and then Dave had it mastered from tape straight onto the analog masters. And when it was done, he called me and James Brown, the engineer, and said, "I'm going to cut all the reels up." And we're like, "No, you can't do that." And he said, "I already did it." And he cut all of the things into little chunks of tape, and then they had him inserted
Mhm.
into the CDs. So it's gone. All of the original masters are gone. And, you know, it is what it is. That's what Dave wanted, and that's what we did. But at the time, I kind of freaked out. You can't destroy the masters, Dave. But he did.
He did. Now, I want to go back to producing because you single-handedly probably helped change the sound of music back in the early days with certain albums. And of course, we're talking about Nevermind, right? Now, I always like to ask this question because usually I'll ask, if there was a song you could hear again for the first time, what would that be? But I want to ask you, what was it like and what do you remember? Because I remember it vividly, the first time that Nirvana brought you Smells Like Teen Spirit. What was your feelings like the first time you heard it?
Well, the first time I heard it was on a cassette that I got about a week before I flew to LA to start the record with him. It was a really shitty sounding boombox. And it was the first song on there. And Kurt, he hit record obviously in the rehearsal room. And so I hear, "Hey, Butch, it's Kurt. Dave's in the band now. Dave Grohl, he's the greatest drummer in the world. We're going to play some new songs." They clicked into Teen Spirit, and it just distorted like crazy because of the built-in microphones couldn't handle the volume. But I could hear the chord progression and the hello, hello, hello. And I knew the song was hooky, but it wasn't until a week later I walked into a rehearsal room out in North Hollywood, and the first song they played was Teen Spirit, and it just completely floored me. Completely
Mm,
floored me.
insane. Now, it's very easy to say what can change over time. That's a simple thing to do. But what's the one thing that's always remained the same about Garbage?
Well, it's funny. We have a sensibility we share, all four of us. You know, we all sort of have the same politics. We're all foodies. You know, we like culture, film, cinema, books. Um, and there's a sensibility of how we all sort of play our instruments and just what we gravitate to. So I can't define it, Troy, but even if we try to not sound like garbage, we still sound like garbage. And after we did Bleed Like Me, I kept thinking we need to change our sound. We need to completely refresh what we're doing. But after we took a 7 year break and they came back to make Not Your Kind of People, I realized that having a sound is like a badge of honor, and it's a really precious thing. There's millions and millions of bands out there. Every day, there thousands of songs are uploaded onto Spotify and YouTube, and it's so hard to have an identity. And for some reason, Garbage has a very strong identity, and now we look at that as an incredibly powerful asset.
Perfect. And what we'll do at the end, we always wrap it up with a prediction. So I want you to finish this sentence for me, Butch. In 2026, Garbage will.
Tour Europe and the UK, and we're going to start recording a new album in the fall of next year.
Ooh, back again straight away.
Back again. We already have talked about some ideas. Um, we we have sort of an interesting approach and theory. I can't really talk about it yet, but it will sound different the next record from from the last couple of records in theory. So
Yeah.
we'll wait and see. We're going to try and start in September next year is our plan so
Okay. I
far.
love how you're just like, oh, Garbage has got a sound. Oh, we're just going to change it up a little bit.
Well, as I said, no matter we're going to change it up, it'll still end up sounding like garbage. A lot of that is because of Shirley. She has such a powerful voice that it's always allowed us as a band to take all these detours sonically. And Shirley has always been the glue that holds all the songs together.
Mate, thank you so much for your time. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for everything you've done for music too, man. I love what you've done with everything, and it's just a pleasure to talk to you today.
Cool. Thank you so much, Troy. This
Thanks,
is
mate.
easy.
See you in Sydney.
Cool.
Thanks for watching our interview with Butch Vig from Garbage. Make sure you head out to Good Things Festival and their side shows. Also, like the video and subscribe to our channel. We'd love if you do that. And make sure you check out maytherockbewithyou.com.